Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that is going to help you become your best self. I am super excited about today's topic. We are talking about defensiveness is holding you back. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you that please come over and get to know me on Instagram at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. I'd love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs. I have been giving away coffee cards if you do come in and conversate with me, follow, and just kind of share in that journey over there. If you're on Clubhouse, you can also join me there in the real-time conversation at Sabrina J. Perozzo. So just come on, look for me. I'd love to chat with you. Also, feel free to send me an email with any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topics, suggestions, or just to say hey, hi, and hello to me. Send that email to realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. So, with no further holdups or announcements, today we are going to talk about defensiveness is holding you back. So we all have had those moments. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.98% sure that we've all had those moments where we are real defensive. I mean real defensive and want to push back on what someone is trying to project onto us or claiming that we are or did. And it's never fun, right? It's never fun when someone comes at you and is like, you did this, or I can't believe this has happened, or this happened under your management, or you are acting this way, or whatever it is. It's never fun. It's never fun when you are faced with an accusation or someone trying to pin something on you. And, if you aren't sure what defensive behavior would be, maybe you're like, am I being defensive? That's a great question. So it can look like you quickly are getting upset and offended by something someone said to you or about you, if it's secondhand, which, I feel like you can be super defensive even if someone tells you hearsay or a rumor, or you quickly deny what is being said without giving it any thought. You're just like, nope, that's not true, without even taking a moment to switch your perspective or think about it or consider it might be true. Or you try to deflect everything and you want to throw that person's problems back into their face. This all means that you could be defensive. And being defensive is likely a symptom of being insecure and not believing you are good enough, which I know that a lot of us suffer from this, and a lot of people, have trouble with their self-esteem and also their self-worth. I do want you to know self-worth, everyone has that. When you come into this world, it's something that you have to decide that you want to have. You have it, but it's something that you have to decide that you want to push into, I would say, and actually believe that you are worthy of anything and everything that you want to do and who you want to be. You just have to decide that that's what you're going to believe and that's what you are going to lean into. But if you don't, and that is the decision that you're making, I know I struggle with it too, though. I struggle thinking that I need to make myself smaller for other people. I am not as smart or capable because of the lies and opinions that I have taken into my mind and decided was fact, as opposed to taking them in as only opinions, only someone else's thoughts, and not truth. So anyway, it's just important for you to understand that because, a lot of times it's just, it does have a lot to do with self-worth. But yeah, so being defensive is likely a symptom of insecurity and not believing you're good enough. And this doesn't mean you are a bad person. Being defensive, just all in all, does not mean that you're a bad person or that you have really big issues, but it does mean you will get in your own way a whole lot and cause friction with some of your relationships, especially if the pushback or you feel like the accusations, which is probably how you see them, even if someone is just giving you good feedback or constructive criticism, it will suffer. It will be hard because if you're never willing to be open and just have those conversations with people that care about you and that you care about, it will really cause issues in those relationships. So if you are unable to receive criticism, even if it's constructive, which is the super helpful kind, without feeling like you're being attacked, with your defenses constantly up and ready to fight off anyone that throw something at you that you don't think is true, or you don't want to be attached to who you are and how you want people to see you, How are you going to be able to grow and evaluate your actions from a different perspective to see if it was wrong or not the best it could be, right? You have to be able to accept criticism, especially constructive, because you have to be able to be more open-minded and understanding of how you may do something and someone else will take it a different way. That's just the natural way of our whole community as a world, because we're all made differently. We all see things in a different way, which is so beautiful. And it creates this wonderful community for us all to come together and share and, support each other. But most of the time we're just fighting and we're just at each other's throats. And that's not what we want to do. But yeah, you're not going to be able to grow and learn. It's not going to happen very often if you don't at least just listen. Just listen to what someone is telling you, and you can evaluate later whether it's right or wrong. But by at least listening, it's super, super helpful. And if you aren't able to take responsibility for your actions as well, because you often try to blame someone else because you're defensive and don't want to be cast in a negative light, it's going to get old really quickly. If you're constantly trying to shift blame, if you're constantly trying to be like, nope, this is not me, I can't accept this, yeah, you're not going to grow and learn. You're going to stay so stagnant. It's going to drive you crazy, but you are not going to understand why, because you are constantly being defensive. And so, that is exactly why I want to talk about this today, because I feel like a lot of people will get so stuck in that defensive mindset and not realize why the world around them is moving at a faster pace than how they are going. And a lot of times, we kind of need to, what's the word I would use? We kind of need to be not necessarily slapped in the face, but we need someone to come out and really give us the real honesty and be like, listen, you might have this problem. Or if you know that person directly, like I can't just be out here like, you have this problem, because I don't know. If you're listening, maybe you don't have this problem, but maybe you know someone else does. And you're like, girl, I just need the advice on how to help them realize they have this problem so that they can become better. That's great too. Either way, we need to be out here like telling people, if we know the real and we have some honesty, we need to find a very constructive way to give it to them. Don't be rude about it. Don't attack them, but be able to deliver it in a way for them to understand it and actually receive it. And again, whether they qualify it as true or not, that is up to them. That is always up to us. Always up to us as a person. But sometimes we just need that realized to really wake up and see what we're doing wrong, what we can fix, and how we can become our best selves. But back to this, having more open communication within relationships is the best way to keep those healthy and stable. Obviously, it's communication is like at the heart of so many things, right? But you can't do that by not even entertaining the idea that you could be in the wrong. You are definitely not going to have any sort of open dialogue by always consistently being like, nope, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. Stop trying to pin that on me. I didn't do that. I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm the best. And I'm sorry to say that you're probably not the best if you think you're the best. And I know that sounds kind of harsh. If you think that you are the best, you might not be the best, because your vision and your mindset is so clouded with kind of just all about you and not necessarily keeping an option open in that channel of your mindset to believe that you could always be growing and learning and that you'll never hit a ceiling, because you're always trying to be better. You're always trying to grow, learn, and strive for more. But if you already think you're the best, you're really limiting your growth and your mindset, and you're probably not. I'm sorry to say that. It's just the honest truth that I have to tell you. So something else to consider before we jump into some tips that I have for you today is that you could be defensive if you are already highly critical of yourself and aren't allowing yourself to fail and make mistakes gracefully. And I wanted to make sure I say gracefully, because you have to give yourself grace, right? Yes, people around you can definitely, extend grace to you if you do make a mistake or fail at something that affects them, of course. But if you aren't offering yourself grace, it's not really going to do that much for you, because you're going to be, again, hypercritical of yourself, upset, hold it against yourself, and not allow yourself to grow and learn and glean the knowledge you need from that experience. But I want you to know there is no such thing as perfection. There's not. And that's a hard lesson that I had to learn, because growing up, that was my problem. I definitely am a recovering perfectionist. And it's not easy because you just have such incredibly high expectations and you want to always meet them, even if it takes an excessive amount of blood, sweat, and tears. But there is no perfection. You are going to have missteps and you need to accept that truth. And I say it all the time. Mistakes and failures are some of the best learning opportunities. And I'm going to keep saying that all the time as much as I need to until people realize that mistakes and failures are some of the best learning opportunities, because they are. And if you reflect back on your life where you have made any mistakes or failures and think about what you actually learned from that and how you applied it in your life in the time after that, in that future after that event, aren't you happy? Maybe you're not happy that happened, but you're happy to have gotten the knowledge and gleaned that information from that experience to do better the next time, right? Or maybe you're happy that it didn't work out because you didn't see other faults and issues that are involved in that experience or whatever that thing that you went through was. And then you're happy that you have to do it again because then you're going to avoid even more pitfalls, right? So you can see how you can really spin it in a positive way, in a helpful way, in a way that's going to serve you the best. So shifting the blame to someone else isn't going to serve you well or even make you look good. Not that we should be overly concerned about how we look, but it's not gonna drive more people into our corner. That's for sure to root for us. So let's chat about how we can work on being less defensive. Today I have 5 tips for you. And in classic fashion, the first tip is to recognize you being defensive. You're not going to fix anything in your life, I promise you, until you actually admit and recognize that you have an issue with that thing. You're not going to stop smoking if you don't recognize that smoking is bad for you, and you're not going to stop stealing stuff from the store until you recognize that stealing things is a bad thing. And yes, you can still engage in these behaviors. I know these are super extreme, sorry, but you can still engage in these behaviors and know that they're wrong, but you cannot make a change if you don't recognize that these things are a problem for you. So it's just you can't stop, some addiction, even emotional eating. You can't stop and work on overcoming emotional eating if you aren't able to recognize that is a problem for you. So you have to recognize that you're being defensive. You have to recognize the behaviors that you are exhibiting to others and having when people do come to you with information that may or may not be true. It may or may not be true. That is not for you to decide in that one quick second of hearing it. You need to at least let it in. So again, recognize that you're being defensive. That is the first one. The second one is see criticism as feedback you can use to better yourself or see yourself from someone else's perspective. So I already talked about this a little bit, but seeing criticism, even if it's constructive criticism, you have to just see it as feedback in general. And again, you don't have to decide in that split moment of hearing it whether it should be applied to you or not. A lot of times when we receive feedback, we should actually take the time to really think about it and see if it actually applies to our life. So there are going to be times where we probably get it wrong and we don't think that what they said unnecessarily applies to us, even if we take the time to really think about it, because sometimes we are not in the mindset to be fully self-aware of what we need and what needs changing in our life because we just haven't gotten there yet, which is fine, which is why I think it's super helpful to write down the feedback that you receive from other people, whether it is for you or not, and then you can reflect back on it later at a later date, and you can choose whatever time frame, 3, 6 months, a year, whatever, and then see if that's something that you should consider now or if it's still not for you. I think that's a good practice. I think it's really helpful, it's healthy, and then you're not being defensive. So see criticism as feedback to better yourself, even if if the criticism doesn't necessarily apply to you, but you will better yourself by just being able to practice accepting it, listening to it, hearing it, being really nice and respectful. That's the word I was looking for. Being really nice and respectful. And that will definitely help you become a better person. But also seeing it from someone else's perspective. So a lot of times when we do something, we don't necessarily think about how it is going to affect people in all different ways. And if we did take more time to do that, we probably wouldn't do and say a lot of things that we do, which would be good. I think I take this to an extreme. I'm always constantly thinking about how people are going to receive me, who I am. It does cause some anxiety more than I want to, because I do take it to an extreme. But if you were able to just have it on like a medium normal level of just taking the opportunity to see yourself from someone else's perspective, and maybe you did offend someone, you didn't mean to, but you can just take that knowledge and knowing, maybe I should be more cautious about who's in the room. Being able to read the room is such an important skill that I think I will talk about someday, because it's super important. So again, see criticism as feedback, or to be able to feedback for you becoming a better person, or just to see yourself from someone else's perspective. The third one is don't interrupt when being told something unsavory or that you don't like, and practice active listening. I think I've talked about active listening a couple times. Active listening is to listen to understand, not to respond. And active listening also includes like sitting there, listening, acknowledging that you're listening, but not necessarily vocally, like maybe with body language, and really taking in what they're saying and actually being able to give detailed response to it, but not necessarily right away. Because if you're giving someone a response right away, it means that you weren't fully listening, because you were already trying to formulate your own response in your mind. There should be at least a beat between them speaking and you speaking. I would say a couple beats, because it just really shows respect that you were trying to actually hear them and understand what they're saying and have a proper response. But back to the first part, don't interrupt when being told something unsavory. If you are receiving feedback from someone, or they are trying to accuse you of something that you may or may not have done, don't interrupt them. Don't just be like, oh no, that wasn't me. Like, let them get out their full thoughts, their full ideas, whatever they need to say, even if they're doing it in an attacking way. Now, if they're spitting at you and trying to hurt you physically, that's different. But if they are just like trying to competently just share how they're feeling and what they feel you did, or whatever it is that they're trying to, whether it's feedback or accuse you of, just accept it. Not accept it, rather. Just let it come in. Let it flow through them. Listen. Just accept that what they're saying is what they're saying. And then you can take time later to really think about it and see if it is true for you. But by not interrupting them, you are really holding yourself back to not be defensive immediately, and to actually consider what they're saying and understand that they are coming from a different perspective of you, and that you should value that, because everyone should value everyone else's perspective, honestly. The fourth one is don't criticize the other person instead. So a very common coping mechanism for people that are defensive is that if someone comes at you, you're going to come right back at them. So if they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you forgot to do this, that, and the other, and you're like, well, you forget to do this stuff all the time, you're just like counter criticizing them as opposed to just listening to what they're saying. This is not the time to just throw their own offenses in their face just to make you seem better, or that your offense isn't as bad, or that, they've done the same thing, so it kind of makes them look hypocritical, what have you. No, don't criticize the other person instead. It's going to make you look even worse. And by dredging up all things, especially if they've already been hashed out and dealt with, is not helpful, right? You're going to hurt that relationship even more. And even if your point is correct and they have done the same thing as you, and they weren't maybe called out on it, it doesn't matter. That's already said and done. How is that going to fix the situation right then? If you're trying to shut them down and get them to stop talking about it, okay, you might, depending upon who it is, accomplish that. But they still feel the way that they feel, and you still haven't learned anything to actually help you learn and grow. You've just attacked someone back, which you've already felt like you were being attacked first. So why would you do that to them if you don't like it done to you, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The golden rule. So don't criticize, don't cry. That's so funny. It's not funny, I'm sorry. I mean, it is funny to me because I say words wrong often. Don't criticize the other person instead. The last tip I have for you is a good one, and one that you can use outside of just being defensive. You can use it in so many different realms. of having tough, hard situations, experiences, emotions flowing. The last tip is to take a break from the situation. Now, this is assuming that you would follow everything else that I said, or any other tips that you find out on the internet about overcoming defensiveness. So you definitely want to recognize you're defensive, and you really want to take in the criticism and feedback, and you want to not interrupt them when they're telling you whatever they're telling you, and you don't want to throw criticisms back in their face. But after all that's said and done, take a break. Let's say someone comes to you and they're like, I need to talk to you about this because this is wrong and this is terrible and the world is ending. And you listen to them and you're like, okay, thank you so much. I need to take some time to think about this. And then you go and then you leave and you take a break. And I understand that this could go badly if the person is like, no, you need to stay here and say something for yourself and blah, 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 and like try to get all deep up in your biz. But then you still have to continue to be respectful and polite. Try your best. Unless they're being super rude and spitting in your face or being physical or threatening you terribly. I would say, no, I'm sorry, I just can't right now. I really need to take some time to really think about this and come back with a proper response to you. Would you like to meet up and talk about this at this time, at this later date, or TBD, whatever? And if they don't accept that, then sometimes you just have to walk away. As rude as that might sound, sometimes people just will not be satisfied until you accept what they want or bow to them. And if you know that's not the right thing to do, then sometimes you just have to walk away. And you might not be able to resolve that. And they might just be coming at you just to be nasty and try to make a point, make themselves look better, which a lot of people do. Then that's not something you can deal with. However, you still did the right thing. You still stood there. You still took it. You still listened actively. You still received what they had to say. You didn't throw insults back in their face. And, you're still a better person for it. And then you're going to evaluate if what they said is actually true or helpful for you. So take a break from the situation. And this, like I said, this advice can be so helpful in so many different situations. If you're going through anxiety or a panic attack, take a break from that situation that is triggering it. Or if you are just having trouble really delivering how you feel and your emotions, take a break from the situation, right? Or if you're arguing with someone, take a break from the situation. It's always nice to take a break from the situation, clear your head, come back more open-minded with a different perspective and the ability to hopefully be more understanding to get through that experience, that situation. So, well, that's all I have to say today about defensiveness. Hopefully it was helpful. Defensiveness is something that will definitely hold you back because, again, it'll hold you stagnant and really diminish the quality of the relationships you have, whether they're strong or medium or just acquaintances or strangers. But still, we should all be actively working together to be a great community to serve each other. That's what I believe. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, with me, Sabrina. Again, come follow me and talk to me on Instagram at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. If you have Clubhouse, let's have a conversation. I am at Sabrina J. Perozzo. Or send me a question, comment, concern, prayer request, feedback, topic, suggestion, or just to say hey, hi, and hello to me via email. Send that to realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.